Sparring,
That's what we need.
we're sparring.
Warm up.
Some
I know
8-year-olds. I got the 8-year-olds in there.
If I find out anything, I'm gonna beat your ass, and I'm gonna beat Jaden on love. On my mama, I'm gonna beat both of y'all ass.
Visions, I've seen it in my manifestation. I'm sleeping this guy and gonna create the most viral knockout ever.
Impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were like to beat him or even like knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him.
Gervonta Davis just fired back after Jake Paul allegedly claimed he'd knock him out within 3 rounds. A bold statement that's added real tension to an already heated buildup. Many boxing insiders believe this fight carries serious weight for Davis's legacy. It's uncommon for a fighter of his caliber to take on what some call a mismatch, and a loss would spark major controversy. Still, if Davis manages to cut through the hype, overcome Paul's size, and neutralize his power, the win could become a defining moment, one that shapes how boxing fans remember Gervonta Davis for years to come.
Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks,
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champion, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience. So we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot?
Jake Paul has turned up the heat by boldly declaring that he'll deliver the knockout of the year when he steps into the ring with Gervonta Davis. This isn't just another fight for him, it's personal. Paul wants a statement win, one that dominates headlines and cements his name in boxing history. His public remarks make it clear he sees this as a chance to silence critics, prove he belongs, and create a moment that fans won't forget. By chasing the ultimate knockout, Paul isn't just betting on his power, he's betting on spectacle, turning this showdown into something far bigger than a simple victory.
Because this thing is going to be watched by hundreds of millions globally. Jake, give the people one thing that you can guarantee that they're going to get on November 14th when they tune in to Netflix.
Yeah, you're gonna see the 2 biggest fighters in America go head to head with an amazing card. World championship fights back to back to back, and that's just how the MVP way we do it. And I'm gonna come for a knockout of the year again. I've seen it in my visions, I've seen it in my manifestation. I'm sleeping this guy and gonna create the most viral knockout ever.
Rolando Romero has shared his thoughts on the possible fallout if Jake Paul were to knock out Gervonta Davis, and according to him, it wouldn't damage Tank's legacy in any serious way. Romero reminded critics that Davis is already a 3-division world champion and one of the most respected names in boxing. Speaking through Instagram reels and interviews, he emphasized that a single loss, even a shocking knockout, could never erase years of dominance, world titles, and the legacy Davis has built across multiple weight classes.
You can't be mad at somebody for doing what they feel is best for them.
Will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were like to beat him or even like knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him. Bro, you can't be mad at somebody for doing what they feel is best for them. It's the same way Roach feels Tank is the best option for him. Same way that Stevenson thinks Tank's the best option for him, or like all that stuff, right? At the end of it, bro, we just want to do what's best for ourselves, right?
Facts.
Right or wrong.
Facts.
So just do what's best for you.
Rolando Romero shared a grounded perspective on the upcoming clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. He believes that no matter the outcome, Tank's legacy remains untouchable. Davis is already a multi-division world champion with a career full of major accomplishments. According to Romero, Tank doesn't need this fight to prove his greatness. Still, he acknowledges that Jake Paul's size is a real factor, one that gives Paul a physical advantage. Yet, even with that edge, Romero insists it can't overshadow what Davis has built through years of discipline, dominance, and success inside the ring.
But like, Jake Paul might be too big for him, or Tank might crack him. You don't know. Like I said, like, or it's an exhibition. We don't know if they throw at each other or not, or we don't know. I don't know. I can't give an opinion because I don't know what's going on.
Do you think it impacts, like, will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were, like, to beat him or even, like, knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take any...
Daniel Cormier was visibly shocked when he found out that Gervonta Davis had agreed to fight Jake Paul. In a recent clip, DC called the matchup ridiculous, describing it as a clear mismatch and questioning why a high-level professional like Tank would share the ring with an influencer boxer. Cormier admitted he never expected a crossover fight like this for someone of Davis's stature. He also voiced concern about the size and power differences between the two, suggesting that the spectacle might risk overshadowing the integrity of Davis's boxing legacy.
I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is. But he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt. I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
KSI has criticized how hype and spectacle continue to dominate crossover boxing, arguing that they blur the line between genuine sport and pure entertainment. In a recent video, he called out Jake Paul for what he sees as the downfall of influencer boxing, suggesting that Paul's promotional tactics often twist narratives for attention instead of celebrating real athletic competition.
And Jake was never going to happen.
I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought it was actually going to happen? Well, it's so crazy. Like, I feel like so many people just believe everything online.
But that's pretty unbelievable on the other hand.
I feel like I know, well, okay, how do I say it like this? Itoma versus White. I had a lot of people bet on White winning. And I'm there like, you guys don't watch boxing, do you? You just look at a record and go, oh, Dylan's fought many more people than Itoma. That record says a lot. Itoma's like 18, not 18, Itoma's 20, inexperienced, one. Like, I just knew Itoma was gonna just destroy him. And I think a good fight for Itoma would be him and Wild.
Veteran journalist Gareth A. Davies has voiced strong concerns about the upcoming clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis, calling it yet another example of boxing favoring spectacle over substance. Davies argues that with the clear weight disparity and the fight's exhibition-style setup, the matchup compromises the fairness and competitive integrity that have long defined the sport. While he acknowledges that the event will likely draw massive mainstream attention and financial success, he warns that it could also chip away at boxing's credibility as a legitimate athletic competition.
We've gone out of the frying pan and into the fire because we thought we were going to get Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua very soon. We'll speak to Frank Smith about that in the next section, obviously. Eddie Hearn was teasing it to me personally last week. £80 million on the table for Anthony Joshua to fight Jake Paul. But 8 inches in height difference, 7 weight divisions between them, 5 stone, 70 pounds between them. It's a joke. It's a circus fight as opposed to a disgrace of a fight, which was Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. At least you feel in this you've got quite a poor, very big one against a pound-for-pound, brilliant, unbeaten little un. And the little un who'll come up to his navel will hit him with a lot of body shots. I said in the week to Danny Kelly and Charlie Brooker that... do I mean Charlie Brooker? No,
Baker.
Charlie Baker. That Charlie Brooker's a different person altogether. That he'll be throwing the Superman punch, the leaping left hook. It's going to be a very odd thing. It's called, in inverted commas, an exhibition bout. But everybody in boxing who is a name doesn't mind going in with Jake Paul because they know they're making millions of dollars. And that's the only reason that Gervonta Davis, who's being called the poison little elf by Jake Paul, and it'll be fun in the build-up. Everybody in boxing knows they're guaranteed to make millions of those silverbacks, those greenback notes that they give out in America, and they give them out for fun when Jake Paul fights. So he's not going to say no to it.
Gervonta Tank Davis has opened up about several concerns ahead of his fight with Jake Paul, and some of them are serious. He's admitted that Paul's power is one of the biggest questions on his mind, saying he wants to truly test how hard Jake can hit. Tank has also acknowledged the challenges posed by Jake's size and reach, noting that he's never faced an opponent with those physical advantages in a bout like this. He recognizes that Paul's movement and mental toughness have unsettled previous opponents, and that's something he can't overlook. Still, despite those worries, Tank remains confident. He's promised that when fight night arrives on November 14th, he'll adapt, rise to the occasion, and bring everything he's got. Supporters of the Paul versus Davis showdown argue that this fight represents the new face of boxing for younger generations. They highlight Jake Paul's unique influence, merging social media, entertainment, and boxing to reach fans who might not normally watch the sport. His rise has introduced thousands of new, younger viewers to boxing, fans drawn to big moments, bold personalities, and the spectacle of it all. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis is celebrated for being raw, real, and unapologetically himself, traits that resonate deeply with young audiences tired of overly polished, manufactured stars.
When a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they're putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix.
Does Jake Paul have that concerns you?
What concern me, his power. Gotta test his power. Gotta test his, just everything, to be honest. I never been in the ring with Jake, so I could say a lot, but when it comes down to November the 14th, I gotta be in there with him. I gotta be able to, his arm reach, his size, his power, the way he moving and things like that. I just gotta.
Nikisa Bidarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, has confidently responded to concerns about Jake Paul's size advantage over Gervonta Tank Davis. He insists that size alone won't determine the outcome when facing a fighter as skilled and explosive as Davis. According to Bidarian, the catchweight agreement was necessary only because Paul is still relatively inexperienced compared to elite professionals like Tank. Bidarian also revealed that the Paul versus Davis matchup wasn't a spontaneous decision. In fact, it had been in the works for quite some time, especially after a potential Canelo Alvarez fight for Paul fell through. He claims that Davis himself had been pushing for the showdown for years, and once the Canelo negotiations collapsed, Both camps saw this as the perfect opportunity to finally make it happen.
There's going to be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro exhibition. We're going to make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's going to be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations were? And the reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight. And after his fight, in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight. And people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing? And has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't going to happen and came back? Or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude. And he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul. Now you get to see if that's real.
Nikisa Bidarian acknowledged the obvious size gap between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis, noting that Paul is naturally heavier, taller, and has a longer reach. However, he firmly believes that Davis's edge in skill and experience easily outweighs those physical advantages. Tank has been a decorated professional for over a decade. Competing primarily at lightweight, he's earned multiple world titles, built an almost flawless record, and delivered countless highlight reel knockouts. His adaptability, speed, elite timing, and ability to hurt opponents in a variety of ways make him one of boxing's most dangerous fighters. Paul, on the other hand, while improving with each fight, has yet to face an opponent of Davis's caliber. This contrast has fueled a heated debate across social media. Some fans accuse Davis of chasing a big payday instead of facing top-tier contenders, claiming the Jake Paul fight is driven more by money than competition. But others argue that this criticism is unfair, pointing out that Davis has already proven himself by maintaining an undefeated record, capturing multiple titles, and defeating world-class opponents in his division. They believe questioning his hunger or legacy undermines the very achievements that made him a star in the first place.
No Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was all right, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash. He ain't did nothing. Hey, that's just what it's gonna be at the end.